The Romani Gypsies. Europe's largest minority group, the Romani, migrated from northwest India 1500 years ago. The Romani, also known as the Roma, were originally dubbed gypsies in the 16th century because they were first thought to have come from Egypt. Today, many consider gypsy to be a derogatory term. They were driven out of India by the 8th century because of frequent droughts or famines, and most simply to escape from the strict Indian caste system and to look for a new market for their products and services. The Romani, after the invasion of Afghan general Mahmud Ghazi in the early 11th century, were pushed out of northern India into what is now Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran. The Romani split and had groups of people moving into the Balkan countries, while other large group moved into the west, into Europe. Europe's largest record of the Romani may be in the writings of a monk at Mount Athos, Greece. In 1100, German officials wrote about encountering Romani near Hamburg in 1417 as well. People wrote about the Romani in Barcelona, Spain in 1425, and by the early 1500s, the Romani were living in Sweden, England, and Scotland. All this resulted in Romani culture mixing with almost every culture in Europe, which gave life to mixed gypsies, and it mixed so much that most people who were full-blood Romani were just considered Indian or European, or were completely outcasted with the group altogether. The Romani endured a lot throughout history, so the Romani, like many groups living in Europe at the time, were subject to persecution, torture, and abuse by a notorious Nazi regime, as were many ethnicities back then. Between 1993 and 1995, Roma in Europe were targets of Nazi abuse. Building on long-held prejudices, the Nazi regime viewed the Roma as asocials outside the normal society and as racial inferiors. Throughout World War II, the Nazis and their collaborators killed hundreds of thousands of Roma men, women, and youngsters across German-occupied Europe. Mass killings of Roma reached their pinnacle on July 31st, August 2nd, 1944, when the Germans began the liquidation of the gypsy camp at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Almost 3,000 Roma were put to death during this single operation. 220,000 Roma died in the Holocaust. The Roma went through many other things prior to the Holocaust and World War II. The Romani people faced discrimination because of their dark skin and were once enslaved by the Europeans. In 1554, the English Parliament passed a law that made being a gypsy a felony and punishable by death. The Roma have been portrayed as cunning, mysterious outsiders who tell fortunes and steal before moving on to the next town. In fact, the term gypped is an abbreviation of gypsy, meaning that a gypsy robbed you right in front of you and you didn't notice. The Roma were continuously on the move. They developed a reputation for a nomadic lifestyle and a highly insular culture. Few attended school, and literacy was not widespread. Much of what is known about the culture comes through stories told by singers and oral histories. Religion, language, and family. The Roma, this is going to be a 3-slide thing. So the Roma, starting with religion, the Roma didn't really follow a single faith. They didn't have a very specific religion. They adopted predominant religions of the countries they were already living in, and according to Open Society, and describes themselves as many stars scattered in the sight of God. Some Roma groups are Catholic, Muslim, Pentecostal, Protestant, Anglican, or Baptist. The Roma live by a complex set of rules that govern such things as cleanliness, purity, respect, honor, and justice. These rules are referred to what is Romano. Romano, to behave with dignity and respect as a Roma person according to the Open Society. Romanopy is what Roma refers to as their worldview. Language, the groups of Roma are varied. They all do speak one language called Romanese, and It has roots in Sanskritic languages and is related to Hindi, Punjabi, Urdu, and Bengali. Some Romani words have been borrowed by English speakers, including pal, brother, and lollipop from Lolo Fabai Kosh, red apple on a stick. And finally, family. The Roma places great value on family, on close family ties. Roma never had a country, neither a kingdom nor a republic. That is, never had an administration enforcing laws or edicts. For Roma, the basic unit is constituted by the family and the lineage. Communities typically involve members of the extended family living together. A typical household unit may include the head of the family and his wife, their married sons and daughter-in-laws, with their children and unmarried young and adult children. Romani typically marry young, often in their teens, and many marriages are arranged. Weddings are typically very elaborate, involving very large and colorful dresses for the bride and her many attendants. During the courtship phase, girls are encouraged to dress provocatively. Sex is something that is not had until after marriage. Some groups have declared that no girl under 16 and no boy under 17 will be married.
Romani food and culture. The Romani had many influences in classical music and culture. It seems as if the music that they produce are existing pieces that they seem to take styles from different types of music and make it their own by giving it their own gypsy touch. The Roma are also a very big part of the folk music style, as in they go around singing and clapping with quick melodies. On the left you have Romani people singing and dancing while clapping, and on the right we have more of an orchestral type. There's also sophisticated gypsy music, where there is very classic orchestral and many instruments and a conductor. They had visited Eastern Europe with their orchestras and became popular with the locals in the 19th century, leading into the 1920s and into the 1960s. Romani food and culture. The Romani are known for soul food traditional dishes like pierogi, goulash, and mamaliga. The pierogi is a dessert made out of noodles and pudding. Goulash is a stew made with beef, pork, and veal, sometimes made spicy or mild. Mamaliga is a cornbread meal that's a cornmeal a cornmeal bread that's eaten with sour cream or butter. The Gypsies are now mostly in Europe, where they are the largest minority group in Europe, and there are many Romani people in the United States, the highest concentrations being in Texas, Southern California, and the Northeast.